Welcome to Don't Fear the Weight podcast with your host Vicky Masita, bringing together science and personal experience.
Backdrop.
It's good, isn't it? Do you like my little...
Oh, yeah. Funny. Right. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the exclusive Titan Tidbits with, well, both of your hosts, I suppose. It's not just me now anymore. So it is the Tiny Titan.
and husband.
And Scott. Scott. Hi, Scott.
Yeah, special guest appearance.
Special guest appearance as he flies through.
Twice.
That's it. Oh, I left the door open.
See.
Can't get the staff.
Should we just start again?
How are you, dude?
Very well, mate. How are you?
Not bad. So in episode number 3 of the Titan Tidbits, we are going to be talking about some myth busts, about what deadlifts do to your back, whether they hurt your back, and maybe some touching on some overtraining.
Yeah, we'll have a chat about that.
Things and stuff like that. So let's kick it straight off because we are all fucking busy. So the deadlift. First,
yes.
Let's just clear it up. The deadlift. Does it hurt your back?
What do you think, Vicky? No, and also, the answer is yes and no. Okay, you can't blanket ban everything. I personally think if done correctly and in a particular mode, whether it's off blocks or with dumbbells or different various stances, it can majority of the time be performed safely and is a really good exercise to do.
For sure. About in different stances as well, because some people deadlift. I am a conventional deadlifter.
Yep.
Much to your dismay, but I am a conventional deadlifter. And then there are other people who are sumo deadlifters. So what is the differences between the two, and what kind of pressure you put on your back?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are differences. There's obviously a lot of similarities there as well. I mean, you're basically working out the best biomechanical route to pick that bar up as efficiently as possible. For those who aren't competing, I tend to find the best route would be conventional, because at the end of the day, day-to-day living is more going to be a conventional way of picking stuff up than you planting your feet either side of a box or a luggage bag and then and picking up between your legs. So you have to sort of take that into account a lot of the time when you're training people. But yeah, so I always start off whether I think, like you for example, whether I think actually sumo could possibly be the route to go down in the future. I like to try and nail that conventional first, because I think it teaches you a lot about how to do other things properly as well, and you can cross over to the sumo, I think, better, having learned how to conventionally deadlift. And a lot of people struggle with the sumo. It's a very, very technical lift. It's as you're finding out to your dismay, it's not just a case of bracing and going. It's really working out those angles and having that hip mobility and finding out that position specifically for you to lift that bar. And I know you can say that about the conventional deadlift as well, but from experience, the sumo deadlift is one of those that really is very technically hard. Most, like you say, most people have conventionally deadlifted without even thinking about it a lot anyway, just picking stuff up. So to transfer that almost innate knowledge onto the bar doing conventional, from my experience, is easier than actually then trying to do sumo. So yeah, so regarding the safety of the deadlift, I mean, having broken my back and now pulling over 220 again. Oosh, thanks so much. My wife didn't hear that, by the way. Damn it. But would I say that deadlift has been detrimental to my back? No, 100% not. I personally believe it's really helped strengthen it. But I've had to adapt my technique to make sure that I'm actually just not using my lower back. I'm actually engaging my core and specifically my TVA and keeping my lower back in a position that's not going to be detriment to my disc. on discs. So again, it's all about doing the lift appropriate to yourself. I mean, how are you finding the deadlift at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I love deadlifting. I've always loved deadlifting. In my hypertrophy phases or bodybuilding phases where I have to do multiple sets of deadlifts, then obviously I don't go as heavy. And then we use a kind of touch and go technique, which is what I'm going to ask your opinion on in a moment as well.
Yeah, good stuff.
About people on touch and go deadlifts. I really like the deadlift. I know that if I tend to go too heavy, my back is very, very strong, and it is stronger than, like, realistically my entire lower half. Yeah. And what I struggle with is the hip thrust through for the deadlift. That is where I completely detriment my form all over. Yeah. So I could realistically work on my glutes and my hamstrings and that actual hip thrust in order to get a stronger deadlift pulling up from the top, because I can pick it up off the floor with literally my back.
Well, that's basically what you're doing.
Exactly. Doing. So of course, because of that, then yeah, my back does get really sore DOMs after deadlifting very, very heavy, especially things like after I do my 2-rep max testing. So yeah, I do find that works. Now, in terms of actually strengthening your back to get that first pull off the floor, or as opposed to just protecting it, what kind of accessories would you recommend to really strengthen up your spinal erectors for it? Because there's a lot of people who just kind of deadlift.
Yep.
And do any accessories to strengthen their spinal erectors, and then they all of a sudden have a lot of problems with the back.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget the spinal erectors are used obviously heavy a lot in the deadlift. So doing the deadlift correctly, you're targeting them quite specifically.
Yeah.
So it's, again, we're coming back to down to technique. If we can get the deadlift technique right, where you're using your erectors safely and having your position correctly, so you're not putting your discs under load. I mean, that's what we're trying to reduce, right? We're trying to maintain a nice still back, a nice neutral spine, especially in the lumbar region. So we're not dorsiflexion and opening up the discs. So we're not trying to cause too much shear forces on them. We're trying to make sure that everything is tight and as strong as possible. So learning how to deadlift will then hopefully in turn strengthen the erectors in a position that we need them to be working strongly in. Now, once that's in play, then we can obviously look at a bit more specific erector work. We can do sort of stiff leg deadlifts. I know they're hammy orientated, before you can get everyone saying that's a hamstring exercise. Yes, it is, but your erectors are still on. Otherwise, you're just going to collapse. I quite like, well, I used to like good mornings. Mm-hmm. Again, really hard on your lower back, but excellent when you're using loads, so sort of low to medium weight, and maintaining that neutral spine. Specifically, back extensions, butt busters with back extension. Right. We can also just do any kettlebell swings, again with that neutral spine. Reverse hyperextensions are an excellent one. Yeah. Again, I know many gyms don't have that hyper machine, but you can sort of just go over like a glute hand raise or a back extension machine the reverse way and put a light band around it. So there's multiple ways of trying to really strengthen your erectors at the day. Anything that's going to cause lower back extension is you're going to be over halfway there, basically, aren't you? Yeah. But the key thing is to support that system by engaging your core as well. Now, that's where I went wrong when I started training in my early 20s and obviously early 30s. I was utilizing a lot of lower back, but not actually thinking about what's going on in the front. And that's probably one of the reasons why my back was taking so much load without any support. I mean, without showing off here, I mean, I have the video of me good morning 220.
Yeah.
And that was all erectors, that I didn't know how to engage my core properly. I wasn't really helping my lower back with a tight upper back. It was just all rounded and up. And you're in your late 20s, you think you're invincible, but that sort of shit, it comes back to haunt you in your 30s and 40s. And so it's understanding also not just what's working, but what synergists are working, i.e. supporting muscles, and what your antagonistic muscles are doing as well. Because at the end of the day, we want the whole body to be working as a unit. And that's where, coaching something like a deadlift is important to get to understand that you're not just focusing on the movement per se, but you're actually trying to work on the muscles to aid that movement, and that's what our training is all about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
See, people just think, I've had a lot of questions actually since we did the comp on the weekend.
Yeah.
In terms of the deadlift, and people just think that powerlifters just go in, do the 3 lifts, and then fuck off home.
Yeah.
And that is basically not what powerlifting is all about. You know, powerlifting is making yourself, like you just said, making yourself a big, strong unit to work synergistically together, all in one piece.
Yeah, that's 100% right. I mean, maybe in the past, people were a little bit more sort of in and out brute force, but I think now as science is coming a bit more into play and people are getting better, people are looking for that extra 2, 3, 4%, to recruit more muscle, to biomechanically lift better, but also to last longer. I mean, powerlifting is one of those sports that you're going to have to be in it for at least probably 10 years to really start making some inroads sort of nationally and internationally, if that makes sense. So there's no point being super strong for 2 or 3 years and then getting injured because you haven't really learnt the basics, because you're not going to fulfill your potential. And so it's like for you, you've done the meet. We've highlighted, ironically enough, your deadlift is probably your weakest lift.
I know, right?
I know, but you have the strength of the bear, but but the technique of Bambi. So, but it's true, and so we need to break that technique down. So we're going to have to try and get you to understand how best to lift efficiently for you.
Right.
And this is something else that people need to sort of understand as well. That it's all well and good looking at all these powerlifting superstars, how they bench, squat, and deadlift, etc. And that's great. And then utilize them as people to look up to and aspire to and to lift like. But the words lift like should resonate, not lift exactly like, because you'll never exactly lift like them. No one will, apart from they will. It's a bit like the bodybuilding chat we had a couple of weeks ago. You won't get arms like Schwarzenegger or quads like Platts. You can aspire to get arms similar to them, and you can aspire to deadlift similar to that guy or that lady, or squat or bench like they do. But the key thing is to take elements and facets of their training and the way they do things, best utilized to how you do them for your own progress, because you would not have the same biomechanical or past medical history, etc., which does come into play. Let's be honest, everyone's got their injuries they've got to deal with most of the time, to lift like they do exactly. But understanding how they lift and then applying it to you is one of the key things about I think powerlifting in particular, is getting to know your body and how to best utilize it. Like we're going to start doing with you.
Yeah, exactly.
But sorry, you try. You're about to say something.
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
No, it's just like your deadlift, for example. Like you say, your lower back is very good, and that's a good sign, obviously, because we want a strong back when we're deadlifting and squatting, etc. But to utilize it properly, we're going to have to get in a better angle for you. Because you're whipping it off the floor, okay, but when you get past your knees, because of the position of your back in particular, it's very difficult then for you to then basically hip extend and extend your lower back to a standing up position, because of the roundness that you started and created at the front part of the lift. So it's then a case of actually trying to change your angles and work things like your upper back. So I gave you that Luke Rose. I know it's a bit egotistical, but it's basically a pendlay row with a scap retraction beforehand to really work on that sort of lower mid back to aid that shoulder blade and scap retraction. Because if that can get stronger for you, then you can get in a better position, which in turn will facilitate your deadlift throughout the whole lift, rather than you just being really good at the first half. I mean, you could probably pull, if had a gun to head, 140 plus to your knees, if you really had to. Could you get it from the knees to the top? No, you can't do that because of your position. So people would go, okay, well, let's work on block pulls, and they would have not the truth of that. But if the position that you're creating from the floor is still the same, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then doing block pulls in a different position is not going to have the carryover.
No.
So we need to so this is again where the art of actually looking at individual and getting a coach to go, we need to understand why you're not failing lift. And usually 9 times out of 10, it's not necessarily because of that particular point. It's usually something else and before that that's causing that point to go wrong. So if you can get that bottom bit right, we know you got the strength then to carry on through because your lower back's strong enough to maintain that position. It's just understanding how to get in that position to begin with. Yeah. And that could be your hamstring, for example, your hamstring tightness not allowing you to get in that position, or your upper back position's not right for your lower body to be working properly in that position. Like, for example, one so I'm rabbiting on now. I know you got me going, but it's like when I saw you, because obviously we do stuff online, and your camera angles have been majority being from the side, so obviously try and check your back position. But when I saw you on comp day, your feet were too wide, in my opinion, which was one of the positional problems you were having from getting to the bar correctly. Because if your feet are too wide doing a conventional, in my opinion, your hips are going to have to drop too low to grab the bar. So if we can just bring those in a little bit and maintain a higher chest position, so not the hips too low, the chest too low, on like the previous comment. So we can maintain a higher chest position, and all of a sudden we're in a better back angle. So it's just a little change like that, and like an inch or two can make a really big difference, especially for someone who's 5 foot.
Yeah, 5'1".
5'1", sorry. Anything over 5 foot, under 5'10", I just sort of lose interest really. But it's far too low down. But yeah, so the deadlift is it's a great exercise, but it needs to be performed correctly for that individual.
Definitely.
And I know you're going to get people saying, well, why do some people do conventional? Why do some people do sumo? Do you know why?
Because of their angles, the way that they're actually connected is like smaller people are better off doing sumos because it's a shorter way to travel. But then I've actually seen tall guys those as well, again, because it is a shorter way to travel, because they've got long gangly arms so they can reach the bar better and get into that nice kind of shoved down position, and then they only actually have to lift the bar a very short way to actually get a full workout. Yeah,
exactly. But for example, we know that, but we say let's stick to conventional, because conventional conventionally lifting is more geared to those having really strong backs, because you are more bent over than you would do in a sumo specifically. Yeah. So we know you can pick up better at the moment, A, because you've done it more, and B, you're back dominant, let's be honest. But those people who maybe have slightly weaker backs, but so want to maintain a slightly more vertical position, but who are more quad dominant and have the hip mobility to maintain, so that's what external rotation, so the knees are tracking properly, sumo might be a lot better for them, because their backs having to do less work and their legs are having to do more work. And this is when it can get quite interesting, because someone like yourself, you don't know this is next week in your program you'll be doing sumo, because I want you to do sumo, but it might be the fact that if we use sumo as an assistant exercise to get your legs and adductors stronger, that might actually have a really good carryover to your pickup from the floor.
Interesting.
Which will then allow you to be more confident, to have your back position in a better position to begin with, so we can lock it out better. So does that so it's not just a case of putting more weight on the bar, or just doing sets of 4 sets of 8 and 4 sets of 6 and 4 fours, etc. It's understanding the lift a lot more regarding how am I going to make that specific weakness stronger. And a lot of the time you have to think a little bit outside the box, especially when you're dealing with national level competitors and above. With beginners, a lot of the time it's for technical element regarding just learning how to do the basic lift better. You can do that sort of linear progression to an extent, and you will find that majority of the time they will adapt a lot quicker because of their CNS and the way they're doing it. They're learning it quicker and quicker and quicker, so they're becoming more efficient at it. Strength doesn't necessarily come into the fore as much as people think for beginners.
Yeah.
But when you do have that baseline strength, it's in a case of breaking it down even more, and then understanding what muscles work, how the muscles should be working, and then how to strengthen those muscle and movement type areas for the overall lift to work properly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, again, I can talk for another hour about it, but that's what it boils down to. So coming back to our original question, is the deadlift safe? I personally think yes, unless you've got some serious sort of medical history that contraindication that would indicate do not do deadlifts for X or Y reason. But if you don't have one of those, just learn how to do it properly. If you're tight in a certain area, maybe change your foot position or change where you're lifting the weight from. Maybe just do blocks.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be from the floor. So you're maintaining that better back angle and position. Or if you want to do a little bit more leg orientated deadlift and want to maintain a bit more of a neutral spine and more vertical position, try some sumos. From eccentric work is really good to learn how to deadlift as well. So a lot of people try and learn how to deadlift from the floor, but actually if you just get the bar up to your hips, i.e. lock out, as best as safety as possible, then actually learn how to reverse the movement, how to come down properly with it. 9 times out of 10, they will actually hit the floor in the position that you want them to pick it up from. As long as it's under guidance and they're actually keeping tight and maintaining certain specific protocols regarding the lift, the deadlift, for example. Yeah. But again, having coached for many years, and like yourself, if you can actually get someone to concentrate on the eccentric, just like on the squat and the bench, their concentric movement will be a lot better. So if you know any sort of PTs or coaches out there listening to this, it's learning how getting someone out of deadlift, starting them from the top. And then work the way down. It's a really good tip. I've done that a lot. Obviously, just with 30 kilos or something, you've got like a bumper plate, 5 each side. 9 times out of 10, that should be light enough for the majority of people.
Yeah.
And just get them slow it down, and then you can correct it as they go along.
Perfect. No, I really like that. And we had a little bit of a rant about the whole linear progression scheme the other day, didn't we? So I think that transitions quite nicely actually into the idea of overtraining as well.
Yeah.
People just kind of go, okay, progressive overload, linear progression, progressive overload, and then all of a sudden I'm burnt out after 3 weeks.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Let's go on that one. So first of all, do you reckon what's your opinion on overtraining, and how easy is it to overtrain?
Yeah, I mean, overtrain does exist. I mean, but it can exist in multiple facets. It can exist in just sort of mental burnout. It can exist in physical burnout, emotional burnout. Well, part of the coach's role is, and athletes, if they're training themselves, is to make sure that you're stimulating, not annihilating. And obviously, there's going to be phases in your training cycle where you're going to be sort of overreaching.
Yeah.
I did it with a chap, a high-level chap. We really pushed it hard for 3.5 months because I wanted him to really build up a really strong base, not just physically, but you know, at the end of the day, powerlifting is a mental game as well. I mean, if you have to lift 5 kilos more than your PB to medal, now I want you to have that mental strength to go out there and go whatever it takes. You're not always going to do that if you're constantly just sort of ticking over and just doing training sessions and weights that are hard, but you know you can do. So so overreaching and coming to a point where you're starting to feel really quite fatigued may not necessarily be overtraining, but you're getting to that point where if you continue, you're going to get past that diminishing point of returns. So overtraining is basically your body's ability not to recover from stress as rapidly as you want it to be honest.
Yeah.
And we can utilize that for a little bit because we know that if we don't push it too much, then we can recover back from it quite quickly. Now, if we keep going down that route, then obviously we're going to have to start monitoring a lot more closely and be more aware that it's like redlining a car when you're driving it fast. You can hit your 6,500, 7,000 revs for a bit, but if you're constantly doing it, you're going to damage the engine.
For sure.
So it's the same sort of principle. So with this chat, we've had a really strong block. Then we had a deload week just to help him recover. And then the block leading up to this major comp was hard, but it wasn't so hard. So as in sort of really sort of fatigue and volume and intensity wise, but it was just enough to get him to where he needed to be. But he felt pressure because he had conditioned himself from the hardest previous block. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So overtraining is not necessarily a bad tool if it's understood and programmed correctly and it has a purpose. But a lot of people just gun it. And I know that's what you should do to an extent regarding getting your results. But again, it's coming back to training intelligently.
Yeah.
And there's no point going to the gym and just going for the motions. You want to train hard, but you also need to know when to take your foot off the gas. Because if you're starting to feel fatigued, if you're starting to feel irritable, and this is why you ask loads of questions and I ask questions to our clients, if you're starting to feel fatigued, irritable, your diet's off, you're not sleeping well, you notice your heart rate is elevated, etc., etc. You can Google all these signs. It's not hard to do. Then you're in a position where actually doing more and more training is just going to be detrimental. You need to take your foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And
you want to train hard, but you want to recover harder.
Yeah, 100%. Because that's the only time you're actually going to make strength, muscular gains is in your recovery.
Definitely.
And if you're training sort of hour and a half, 4 or 5 days a week, then hopefully the other sort of 22.5 hours on the training days and the other 24 hours that you're not training should be geared to allowing yourself to recover quicker so you can train hard in those sessions. Does that make sense? So it's all making sure these pieces of the puzzle are fitting correctly.
Yeah.
And you're not we've got 1 or 2 high level athletes, let's be honest, we won't mention the names, but they do well in the gym, they might do well with the nutrition, but the sleeping's off. Or they do well with the sleep and they do well in the gym, but they come back to you and go, I've had shitloads of pick and mix. And I feel bloated or whatever. I'm still tired or I've still got DOMs. And you think, well, have you ticked that box and that box?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a case of doing everything you can as well as you can, not just 1 or 2 facets, and that will help you train harder and overreach if that's what you want to do, and hopefully not go into that overtrained state too much. Has that answered your question?
Definitely. I think there's a really, really fine line between overreaching and overtraining.
Yeah.
And I think in powerlifting blocks and bodybuilding blocks, in all perfect honest with you, I think you still need to have that kind of overreaching level.
Yes.
To the point where you've got to get to that point to create that adaptation. But then after that, you need to realize that you are overreached. You have got to that pinnacle point of like, okay, yeah, I really do need to rest now because my nutrition is on point, my supplements are on point, my sleeper is on point, but I'm still fucked.
Yeah.
And now I need to rest. And then you take that rest properly by either means of having complete time off for what have you, or 5 days, or having a deload. So, taking some weight off the bar and just getting into a pattern of movement and that kind of thing. And I say this all the time, I'm the worst for it. I bloody hate having time out of the gym because, I mean, you do that anyway, because I'm just like, I just want to get back to lifting some heavy weights and this is boring. And, it is. And to me, I just want to get back and I want to work in the gym. But it is insanely important in order to do that and to get you recovered. I think a lot of the terms when people say, I'm overtrained, 9 times out of 10, it's because they've under-recovered. That's all it is.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
Yeah. So they're under-recovered, they're under-fueled. On their rest days, they kind of take all of their carbs down because they think that carbs are going to make them fat on rest day. Yeah. So they don't use them. But what they obviously fail to understand is that carbs are used for recovery and recovery purposes. One of the biggest things that I say to anybody, especially I've had quite a few clients who have come to me recently, just nutritional clients that have said that they're feeling all coldy and fluey and feel ill and that kind of thing. And they're like, well, I don't really feel like eating. It is still massively important that you eat and you fuel your body, because otherwise you're not going to have the force behind you internally to fight off the illness that you've got.
Yeah.
And it's the same when people have surgery and then they say, well, should I kind of decrease my calories because I'm not training? And it's like, well, no, because your body's actually burning more calories trying to repair the muscle tissue that your surgeons have cut through.
That's a very good point.
So keep it up. You have to keep that up. And hydration is a big thing. Oh, actually, just while we're talking about under recovery and under fueling and things, hydration is really, really, really important. And obviously, because it's been really hot, we had this discussion previously as well. As it's been really hot, people have started to drink a lot more, and they've been drinking to thirst. So, of course, they've been piling back some more and more water, sometimes in the cases of an extra litre to a litre and a half to 2 litres a day. Now, what they fail to do at that point is increase their sodium. Mm-hmm. So they've basically flushed out all of their normal sodium levels and just hyperhydrated, and it's just sent their levels all over the place. And then they're not sleeping, and then they feel like shit. So one of the questions that I ask the majority of my clients when they're like, oh, I've put on weight on the scales and I've done this and I don't feel great. It's like, okay, have you been drinking? Yeah, because it's hot. Okay, have you put more sodium in your food? No. Guess what? Get some salt on your food, mofo, and then all of a sudden it's great.
Yeah, and I've been doing that, and I've noticed the difference. So thanks for that tip.
All right, pro tip. That's it. So it is one of these things that overtraining is real. You can seriously burn yourself out if you don't listen to your cues that your body is trying to give you. But under recovery is even more frequent and more common.
Yeah, so, and that gets mistaken for overtraining.
Completely.
Because, like you say, you need the sleep, you need the hydration, you need the nutrition, and they're key. We train guys and girls who lift phenomenal heavy weights for their size on a regular basis, but because their nutrition's on point, well, it should be on point if they're following your plans, and the nutrition and the rest and recovery is on point, they can do this and they can do more and more often, and they don't get ill as much. And because they don't get ill, because they're doing more and more, they get more conditioned, and it's just an upward cycle. It's like I said before, I'm a massive fan of yours, obviously, but I'm a more massive fan of your knowledge regarding, I'm not just blowing your own trumpet here, but nutrition is so key. It's the fuel of the car. I like my car analogies. No, you can't get anywhere without decent fuel. And if you want to drive a faster car with a better engine, you're going to have to put better fuel in.
Yep.
And you're going to have to service it more.
Yep.
So you're going to have to eat better, and you're going to have to recover more. You're going to have to do your sports massages, your rest, your physio, anything that helps on the outside to make that hour and a half in the gym more worthwhile.
Definitely.
And there's been one or two times where I haven't got it right. No, we're all human. We've all got our lives to lead. Some of us got kids and running businesses, etc. Busy times, and there's been things where my nutrition's been off point, or I haven't slept well, and I've said to myself, if I go to the gym, am I going to get better for it, or am I going to get worse? And if the answer's the latter, don't go to the gym.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've just gone, I'm going to give myself a day off. Now I can do that because I know inherently I'm not a lazy bastard.
Yeah.
And from experience, when you get older, when you've been a bit like us, when you're in your 20s, you gun it, bang, bang, bang. I don't care. I got the flu. I don't care. It's arms day or leg day or whatever. When you get to a bit more eyes, a bit more sensible, and you're a little bit more aware of what's good and bad, then you can say to yourself, if I'm going in the gym, I know I'm going to feel worse afterwards. Don't. You're not doing anybody any favors by pushing it. If you've got a little bit of a headache, for example, I'll just prefix this, obviously see medical attention, blah blah blah. but no, if you're feeling a little bit, can't be bothered, then fucking go.
Yes.
If you're feeling like, actually, do you know what, I feel quite sick here, or I just need another day, if you're actually sincerely telling yourself that, don't, because the training is all about stimulating for a increased positive success to come back stronger or bigger next time. It's just going to make you worse. Yeah,
for sure. No, completely agree with that 100%. There, I used to be one of these hardcore guys back in 2015, 2018, where it was like the only bad workout is the one that you don't do.
Yeah.
And it's like, no matter how you feel, you get to the gym and you smash that workout and you chase the logbook and you get better numbers and everything else like that. So I used to be that until realistically, I kind of got broken mentally as well as physically. And it's, you know what? When you're ill and when you feel like shit and when you feel like death and you go into the gym and just go through the motions, all it's going to do is make you feel worse.
Exactly.
So if you want to be strong and mentally as well as physically, you're going to have to actually listen to the cues that your body is giving you. If you have got a massive amount of DOMs, you're still taking a few more days to recover than usual, and that kind of thing, then, just take another day off. Go for a brisk walk.
Yeah.
Just mobility and some flexibility.
Yeah. Do the other piece of the puzzle. Yeah. Do some recovery work.
Exactly.
So you don't feel like you're going to shift loads of weight, but actually mentally you feel okay. Just go and do some light technical work.
Yeah, exactly.
If you've got DOMs from the squats the day before, sometimes going the next day and just doing sort of 40-50% of your max on some light squats again can do wonders for your recovery. But again, this is why no one rule fits everyone. Everyone's different, and it's learning about yourself, how best to get stuff out of the gym in your program.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully where a coach can help facilitate that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
There's loads of different ways of doing it, but the process has to encourage progression.
Yes.
So if what you're going to do is going to encourage progression, whether technically or cover wise or strength wise or mentally, people might still need to go to the gym. That's fine. It makes you feel good, but just be aware that your physical element and your emotional element needs to be taken account. And regarding emotion, a lot of people train hard and they get psyched up, but they can't do it all the time. So you need to ramp that in sometimes just to help when it does count, come back in properly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw some girls, didn't we? They're youngish, powerlifting meet. My God, they looked aggressive on the platform.
Perfect.
Like hella aggressive. I mean, some of them approached the bar like a freaking bull.
Yeah, banshees there, weren't there?
Yeah, stamping into the floor and everything like that. I mean, talk about adrenaline. Now, the thing was, I got tired watching them. And I just thought to myself, do you know what? That kind of adrenaline, you can't have that kind of adrenaline every fucking day. No way.
No.
I mean, no, I can't. I can get focused on the bar. Focus I have. Drive and determination I have. But that kind of adrenaline, the only way I'm going to get that adrenaline out is going to be on the platform. Because I'm going to save all of it for the day that I'm going to be lifting a hell of a heavy weight. Like you said, 5 kilos heavier to make sure that I place. And I have to say that's heavy, like half a kilo more on that bench press that I did when I got the record holder, by the way, now.
God.
I know, right? Big swollen head.
Someone widen the door frames.
I'm only joking. I don't care. No, I mean, I wanted to obviously get 61, not 60.5. But after I did that 60.5, the extra half kilo, holy shit, that was heavy.
Yeah.
And yet the 60.5 looked easy.
I know, but again, I think your technique on the 60.5 was more on point than the 61. Exactly. Sometimes when you have too much adrenaline and aggression, your form can take a bit of a backseat. So again, it's finding that balance. And obviously, really, that was your first proper comp. The more experience you get, the more you'll be able to be aggressive. But your technique will still be more inherent, to be more in tune, ingrained. That's the word I'm looking for.
Ingrained.
Yeah, there we go. Third time lucky. But yeah, so it's a long process. And it's just not a case of just going up there and just lifting on the platform. Those who have done it, you have to respect the fact that they had the balls to go out there and lift on the platform, because there's so many people who, that's another topic, but there's so many gym strength wannabes, isn't there? I can bench this, I can squat that, and you watch it as well, there's no pause, your bums come off the bench. That squat definitely ain't to depth. How many times can you say that? So it's a different kettle of fish to when you actually lifting in the gym and lifting on the platform. And just to reiterate, I thought you did very well.
Oh, thanks.
I was impressed. I'll put that out live.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, it's official. I was actually quite impressed with your lifting.
Oh, very nice. See, you heard it here.
That's exclusive.
Awesome. Right, so I think that wraps up everything really, really nicely.
Cool.
Unless you want to finish on something else, Luke?
No. I think we've covered quite well the topic. Obviously, if you've got any more questions or anything regarding that or anything else we've spoken about, just give us a shout, because we're more than happy to address it. Because I know it's a lot more complicated than people think sometimes, but it's also a lot more simple than people think. So it's just finding what works for you.
Indeed. So, guys, that is it for another episode of the Titan Tidbits. This is episode number 3. So make sure that you give us a screenshot. There you are, double bicep screenshot. Yes. Screenshot it, put it on Instagram, share it around, give us a tag. We're going to be launching some competitions in the next couple of episodes. So stay tuned for those. And again, if you've got any questions or any topics that you want us to discuss, then send us a DM or put the comments in the section. No, put the comments in the comment section bit on YouTube. You know what I mean. And
so professional.
I know, very professional. And that is it from us, the exclusive Titan team, and we shall catch you next time.